water down Pascal.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. I hope all of you have taken your lunch, you have enjoyed the lunch. So we are now going to the last leg, our last part of the technical session. I hope our colleagues who are online have already come back from their lunch. Please welcome, join us for the last session. I don't have any administrative announcement for the time being. If they crop up, then I will let you know. But I still encourage people to go online to do the survey that was requested by the organizing committee and the facilitation office. Without much ado, I welcome Dr. Ngoi to continue with the session, and he will introduce now the panelists for the just ended session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and we have enjoyed the lunch. Let's move on. And we are time sensitive because by 16 hours you have to be done with the business here, more or less. So the panel now will be moderated by Professor Isaac Minde, policy analyst, Michigan State University. Professor, please, if you come in front. And then the panelists consist of Bob Schumer, Executive Director, Tanzania Seeds Trade Association, TASTA. Schumer, please. Good. And then, I'm not now at least I know, Maria Jumba will be taking the place of Geoffrey Krenga. They are both surrogates. So Maria, karibu mama. And then, I'm not sure, Dr. Stephen Ngailo, are you here? Or anybody from Tanzania Fertilizer Regulatory Authority? Because it was either Ngailo or Nkonye, if any of you is here. If not, then you save us time. So remember the thematic area 6, which was on farm inputs value chains, including issues related to seed, fertilizer, pesticides, day-old chicks, fingerlings, heifers, and feed. Professor Minde, please, the business is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Facilitator. I'm very glad to participate in this panel.
Oh, it was not yet. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Facilitator, and I'm glad to get this space to participate in this session, which is a very important one, really, about inputs. And we have, right now, we have two panelists. And on my left is Mr. Bob Schumer, who is the, as we know, the chief of TASTA, Tanzania Seed Trade Association. And my question to you, Mr. Schumer, is basically centered around the whole question of agricultural policy, policies harmonization with specific reference to seeds. And I think you are the best placed to respond to this question. My question is, having been in this game, I remember from the year 2000, you and I were basically kind of attempting to champion seed policies, rules, regulations, and laws harmonization in Eastern Africa. But until today, we seem not yet to be fully in full implementation of what is expected to be done. What are the main challenges? Why are we until today talking about bills, talking about drafting the bills in certain areas? Why are we lagging so much behind 20 years? One would expect that by this time everything would be open and the borders would be clear and people would be basically taking seeds left, right, and center. So what are the issues? What are the challenges? Please.
Thank you very much. Isaac, thank you. It has been a long way between me and Isaac, especially when it comes to seed. And I thank God I've been in seed for about 30 years now. So a lot has come across the bridge in terms of all what you saw. Having this country putting together the seed systems, putting along all the way, including the harmonizations of regional trade and facilitating it. A lot of effort has been done on East Africa and actually also on SADC, and it is good that Isaac was part of it. It answers the question which we are supposed to address here, that to be a regional hub. And the question also is, how do we reach there? How do we reach there started a long time ago. This journey started a long time ago. And that's why he's posing this question. To be very specific, the East African seed harmonization for rules and regulations was done by ASARECA, funded by ASARECA, and for the interest of East African trade, seed trade in that question. However, after having done a lot of work, later the East African community came up with a proposition that that was not a directive from them. As such, they could not own the work done. So new directives were given specifically, and mandate was given to experts of the 3 East African countries to come up again with a document which could be now be owned by East Africa and could be used officially. Nevertheless, the ground had been done. In the business perspective, we had already put together the standards of seed in East Africa. We had already put together a lot of other mechanisms which would enable business community to trade. So trade has been going on. What was required is Tanzania. Tanzania was lacking one instrument which is called ISTA accreditation, meaning that the laboratory tests of the seed has to conform with international standards like other laboratories, And not only that, personnel must be trained and should pass a proficiency test, which would therefore allow them to sign documents which could be also accepted internationally. This task was done, and Toski Laboratory was therefore accredited. And up to today, Tanzania now can export seed to the neighboring countries. Tanzania can produce seed and export them to where we are actually importing, except South Africa. The reason is we have laboratory standards and we have field standards which are internationally acceptable, and we have the manpower which is well trained, and that training is continuous. And we have in position plans to continue training them. So coming to your question, Isaac, is that the document was not owned by East African Community, but the work done by the project at that time has therefore sustained business relations between Tanzania and other countries. As I'm talking now, for the first time, Tanzania has been able to produce seed and export to Kenya, and we have orders for Kenya, we have orders for Rwanda and Burundi right now, and we are even moving further, something which was not there. Probably, I would go further than your question, and that is, what is to be fixed so that we move? We move to being up there and we can be a regional hub. Why do we import a lot of seed? The previous presenters, like Dr. Mizamba, had put it that we are only importing about 40% of the seed. It is true, it is a little bit more than that. But we are also exporting a lot of seed. One thing which we lack in this country right now is, what is the demand for local consumption and for export if we have excess seed? Who knows what is the actual demand? We are lacking that part right now, and that is, there is no proper data in this country which can guide any investor of the actual seed which is required and where and which type. Although we have put all the seed systems together, all the regulatory work, everything has been done, except that one has not been done. And again, what kind of quality of seed is required? You've heard a lot of presenters talking about having quality declared seed, having certified seed, importing seed. The government is putting a lot of money to import seed, but what quality of seed is required by the farmer? Because on the other hand, you hear farmers saying seed is expensive, yet the government is importing that expensive seed. So what seed is required is to be fixed. How do we produce it? This is the crucial and the part which we must look at it very critically right now, and everybody is avoiding it. From the time we started this conference, a lot has been talked about land, but actually we are not taking it serious. You see, you cannot improve productivity of seed in this country if you do not have allocated land specifically for producing seed. You must have that policy. You must have that directive given to the districts. And if you don't know how to do it, then you go to others and learn from them. For instance, where we are importing seed. You go to South Africa, you go to Malawi, you go to Zimbabwe, you go to Zambia right now. For those who have been flown through that area, you will see a lot of land from the skies, and that one is on block form. It's block irrigation which is required. Right now,
sorry, Bob, our time is only 5 minutes, so if we could round up.
Yes, so I'm running
topic,
now.
But yeah.
I'm running now. Right now, a lot of emphasis is how to divide land for putting up estates, etc., but land for producing seed is not a focus. We have to make it a focus so that we can produce sufficient seed for our country, and we have to make it a focus, because block land policy, then you can also irrigate. And investors would like to go to that one because it is easily manageable and you can invest on it very easily. Even the bankers will like to give you that kind of support. So block land policy, and finally we need a standalone seed policy. What we have is agriculture policy, but we don't have a standalone seed policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. I think I'm quite satisfied with the answers you have given us. And I'm kind of happy to learn that although the East African community is demanding those documents, the train did not stop. It is moving. That's very, very, very good to hear. Maybe without further ado, can I go to my sister here on my right from SAGCOT? And the question to you, Madam, is right now we all have witnessed a lot of reforms taking place in a positive sense in our country. And in fact, you will recall that since Monday, we have been congratulating the government, but at the same time telling the government that, yes, we very much appreciate the efforts, but then there is a lot to do more. Now, in your case as SAGCOT, where do you think the shoe is most pressing right now? In other words, what else has to be done? Yes, we are saying we are successful, but in terms of priorities, for example, what do we need to really get on full blast right now in terms of rigidities that are kind of stopping us from climbing the ladder? Please.
Thank you very much. Yes, we really congratulate the government for the reforms that have taken place in the agricultural sector, but I will zero in also on what the topic is that we are looking at. Yeah, we are looking at soil health. And we have had the presenters talk about lime and the use of lime and the need for investment in the lime value chain. And so, just like Bob said, we need to know demand for seed. Any investor will want to know demand for lime before they can invest in the lime. So they need to do their numbers and make sure that they will actually it makes business sense. So unless we, as stakeholders across the Soil Health Partnership, looking at new sources of agricultural lime that are closer to the farmers. And we saw the presentation from Tari, where they have done some analysis of some sources, and they have seen in Ruvuma and in Songwe, but there are other deposits which are closer to the farmers that need to be analyzed and documented so that we can get the cost of lime to the farmer, to the last mile supply to the farmer going down, because lime is a bulk product, and if there is no support in regulation and policy to actually address this issue, and support to TARI to make sure that they are doing this analysis, and we have all the data that is going to attract any investor to come and invest in the lime industry. Doing the quarry, looking for the machinery, somebody will go venture if they are seeing there is money in this business. And as I already alluded to this, I also would like to say that, and we see a lot of political will supporting this soil health issue, because we have heard about measuring soil, knowing the soil before you can apply fertilizer, before you can apply, any of these inputs. You need to understand what are the gaps in your soil health. It could be just organic matter, it could be they need acidity, it could be alkalinity, but unless we are doing soil testing, this is not happening. And we are seeing a lot of political will, and this is because there has been stakeholders, including SACCOT and its partners. We have been, trying to raise awareness of this and even doing demonstrations at farmer level to show that there is need for application of lime because the soils are actually acidic. And the scientists have already shown us how acidic almost all the soils, let's say in the southern highlands, are. So we need to create awareness. We need to have data available for the investor to be interested in investing. And we need to make the climate even better by, I will talk about this policy where, we still are regarding agricultural lime as a mineral. So all the taxes and all the treatment as a mineral makes it expensive and not attractive for investors to come in. So we need a policy that is going to actually tell us which lime is for construction and which lime is for agriculture, and so that we have a clear understanding on that. But again, another issue is that we need to have our extension system, the skills upgraded. Not all extension officers understand lime or how to use it. So how can the message reach the farmer if the extension system is not well versed with that? So with the Ministry of Agriculture and other stakeholders, we need to build the skills of the extension system to be able to do soil analysis, to be able to know the recommendations, to be able to advise the farmer properly, to apply so much or to apply less, and which fertilizers to use, and to also go ahead and look at all the other elements in the soil that need to be addressed before we can address the issue and the cry. Everybody is crying about productivity. Productivity is low. Productivity is low in almost everything. And soil health is like the backbone of this productivity. You cannot put something in the soil and expect something good out of it if the soil is sick. So yeah, the main issues, we need to look at that policy. We need to have our skills on the ground. We need to have skills on the ground for the farmer to get the awareness. And awareness because the farmers need to know that apply is actually making sense. Farmers are the best entrepreneurs. They take risks all the time. So as government partners, together with research and the government, to put our heads together, this is a multi-stakeholder process. Not one person will do it on their own. So with supporting policy and regulation, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria, for telling us that lime is actually a low value for volume kind of commodity. It is not Tanzanite, and so they need to really identify sources which are as close as possible to the area of use, to the area of attack. And so basically basing on the question of the fact to be very about demand, where to the said. So emission of demand is very important. Let us not multiply the acreage or and the amount it is needed, the requirement, and we say that is demand. No, it won't be. And of course, the investors, the potential investors, are watching what we are telling us, and so one would wonder why the line not being picked up. It is because we are misdirecting them. So that is very well said, Maria. And right now, let me move to the third panelist. This is Silvanus Mruma. Just checking whether you are there. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Very good, yeah. So, Mruma, you are from Nafaka, and Nafaka is basically a Feed the Future project, basically dealing with grains, cereals, etc., etc. So, we have been today in this very important session of ag inputs in all its senses. So we just wanted to learn from you, Mruma, as a person on the ground, about the whole question of how you see, for example, the production, availability, accessibility, and utilization of these inputs in nafaka. Where are the key challenges, and what should we do? Please.
Okay. Can you hear me, everybody?
I can hear you perfectly well.
Thank you very much.
You have 5 minutes, Silvanus.
Okay. There are so many issues regarding inputs. Let me start talking with the seed, and then I'll talk to about the issues related to other input categories. First of all, when it comes to seed, we have two types of crops. Those crops that are cross-pollinated crops, whereby the hybrids are dominated like maize. There isn't much problem because the farmer has no way but to go back to the seed company every year and to purchase it. So the system is very well established. There are some last mile issues, yes, that may affect some accessibility at the last mile. And as a project, we have tried to solve those last mile issues by strengthening the village-based agricultural agents network and the producer organization networks. And in largely, the problem has been addressed. But when it comes to the so-called orphanage crops, you have these crops like rice. I can assure you, if you go to the agro dealers, you cannot find the rice seed. Even if you go, they will tell you go to the market. So we are not talking about grain. We are talking about seed. So there is no incentive for the private sector to invest in the rice seed in the similar way like we have seen in the maize seed, because for example in maize, all the big boys, the Monsanto, the Corteva, all the big boys, they are here. But when you talk to the rice, the only solution, we have to acknowledge that the quality declared system is the way to go. As a project, we have invested in the quality declared seed production in 205 villages, and it has worked tremendously well. And as part of the journey to self-reliance for sustainability, we have formed the 7 QDS producer associations that they will continue to work with the district councils, TOSCI, well beyond the life of Nafaka. And what we have seen that QDS, quality declared seed, has really enabled farmers to have affordable seed, because the farmers can get the best seed at around the, let's say, 1,500 up to 2,000 per kg within the district, within the village, within the locality. The only thing that about the QDS, what we need, it needs a lot of investment in terms of, for example, first of all, it's a process from registration, individual registration, field registration, sample collection for laboratory tests. Then you have the inspections. And all of these systems, the project has been supporting all the cost from registration, inspections, and you know you have two inspections, first inspection, second inspection, sample collection for laboratory tests. And it's not cheap. It comes with a cost. So some of these costs, through the associations, the farmers have sucked up the cost, but in some instances, we have had meetings with the district councils in those districts where rice is a strategic crop. Some of the cost, like the laboratory test, we have figured out, and they can come from their own source budget to cover the cost of the laboratory test. Yes.
Yeah, Mruma, we are running short of time, but
this is yes.
We are running short of time, but let me just ask you a supplementary question. You as Nafaka, are you saying that quality declared seed is an end in itself, or is a process which we are on as we await the accessibility of certified seed? In other words, do you think that is okay, and then we can stop at quality declared seed? Or
yes.
Is it because
it is not something? Okay. It is not something that we are doing while we are waiting for something. There is nothing to wait on. Quality declared seed should be fostered. It should be for the farmers. This is the only way for certain types of crop, like rice, as I have said. For example, if we could have a hybrid rice that can outperform the OPV, maybe, but the variety TXD 306, it has been a revelation. In fact, it has the similar performance to the hybrid. Even one of our Chinese friends who located at Dakar, they wanted to take this TXD and say, what type of OPV is this? And a good management, you can get up to between 6.7 up to 9.5 metric tons per hectare. So unless you have the hybrid that can outperform TXD 306, I don't think you can penetrate. And a farmer has no way of why should the farmer go and buy the hybrid? Why you have the OPV that can outperform the hybrid? Most people have tried to introduce the hybrids, but it has failed to penetrate the market for TXD 306.
Thank you very much.
This is not something we are waiting for. No, we should stick with it and help our smallholder farmer.
Thank you, Bwana Mruma. I'm very much interested in this topic, and I would like to continue with the discussion offline with you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chief Facilitator, I'm just wondering, I just wanted to get some guidelines here as to whether we have time for questions from the audience, from those who are kind of following us virtually.
There are some comments I can read.
Yep.
Actually, they are just basically comments from the morning session. Yeah, just before lunch. I'm not sure that Dr. Mizambwa is still around, but then the question was, Dr. Mizambwa.
He's here.
Oh, yeah, sure. What specific policy issues can you stretch out from your findings regarding seed business of RTBs in Tanzania? I think a clear distinction of policy issues between roots, tubers, and banana and other crops need to be highlighted. That was the first comment. Well, a bit of a question and a comment. The other one is basically, it's coming from, someone is coming from Renato Magesa, technical data specialist from Nature Conservancy secondary at Sagot. So he's saying soil testing is a game changer towards increasing value chain production, as the problem with acidity soil is that it hinders a phosphate presence, which is critical nutrient for plant growth. The science is still foreign to farmers. It is important that any solution to remedy the soil, for example, lime in farm field, are conducted after soil testing is done to avoid even more pollution of the soil. And this is, it's really a comment, Professor, not really a question aside. So question basically was to Daktari. So if you could, within less than a minute, respond. So, yeah, basically he is saying, what specific policy issues do you stretch, can you stretch out from your findings regarding seed business of RTBs in Tanzania? But of course, it's like he also gave his opinion. His opinion is, I think, a clear distinction of policy issues between root, tubers, and banana and other crops need to be highlighted. It's like he wanted you to unpack the policies into crop-specific policies. I'm an economist also, I'm not sure whether I'm getting it even corrected.
Yeah, I think if I understood him correctly, he's talking about my last slide when I say there are crops which need seedlings and planting materials, which at the moment there are no protocols for certifying it. So that's where the distinction is. Yeah. There are field crops, grain crops, horticultural, and these root and tuber and seedlings. And at the moment, we are very well positioned for the field crops in terms of grain and horticulture. We are not doing well in terms of planting material for root and tuber and also seedlings. That's why I said there are policies that need to be developed specifically to focus on planting material, which is not the grains and the others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's clear. And so we call to end this panel. Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you much, panelists, Bob and Maria.
Thank you very much.
Justice to this. Thank you so much. So, thematic area 7 now. Farm services, value chain, extension, credit, machinery, storage, irrigation, water, energy, transport, logistics, etc. Our moderator is Mr. Kelvin Raymond, a business environment manager from Taha. Please, Kelvin, you are around, I'm sure. Come forward, and we have, at least I can see presenters who are online. We have Dr. Rizik Michael, and then Edgar Buberwa. I'm not sure whether Fahad Awad is around, but now, Kelvin, please do what you can do best. By 15:40, we'll have to finish. Yeah, and I can manage you very well.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Prof, for that introduction. And I'd like to welcome you all to this session, which I think is the very last session for the day. And I think the organizers were smart to put this as the last session of the event, because I think most of the challenges which were identified, which were discussed in previous sessions, most of them will be answered in this session. We've had issues of access to affordable finances. We've had issues of challenges on extension services, post-harvest handling technologies, logistics, and other services which are really paramount for us to attain the competitiveness, the productivity which we are all looking for in agriculture. So in this session, we are looking forward to answer those issues, and I think you're going to enjoy the experience from the presentations which are going to be made by our experts, but also the plenary session, which we are going also to enjoy from people with vast experience in different areas which I've mentioned. So without taking much of your time, the session will be organized just like other sessions. You're going to receive 3 presentations, and gladly all of them are going to be held virtually. So our presenters are virtually waiting for the presentation. But also we'll have a panel discussion where we're going to have 5 well-experienced fellows, and 3 of them are present here, but 2 of them will join us virtually as well. And from there on, just as Professor has warned me, if time allows, we'll open a floor for discussion so that you can also get your input, questions for clarification and others. So without wasting much of your time, I'd like to welcome now the first presenter, and this is Dr. Riziki Michael from ESRIF, and her presentation will be on tax structure in Tanzania. And what you're going to get from the presentation is to understand how does this tax structure in Tanzania facilitate the support services which we're looking, the irrigation, the extension services, accreditation, certification, and other services. So Dr. Riziki, I think, is already connected. Dr. Michael, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. Can you please hear me?
Yes, we do hear you clearly. So
I had a problem with the slides. I think they're not moving.
sorry, our IT.
Can someone assist me with this?
Our IT, please, can you? I think
Yeah.
I see now they are moving. So, Dr. Michael, you have exactly 10 minutes. I'll just inform you when we are about to finish your 10th minute so that
Yeah.
we can proceed. And our time is a little bit squeezed, so please observe time. Karibu sana, the floor is yours.
Sorry, the slides are still not moving. Okay. My name is Riziki Michael Nyelo. I'll make presentation on the agricultural tax structure in Tanzania. So the agricultural sector is considered to be the mainstay of the, sorry, I have the problem with the slides. Can I use my screen? And the several fiscal agricultural tax structure. I use my screen, please?
Sorry,
Okay.
the IT, can you guide us? Can he use his share from his screen? Yes, Dr. Michael, you can
Okay.
do so. Please
Okay.
share from your screen.
Yeah, agricultural sector is considered to be the mainstay of the Tanzanian economy. However, the reality on the ground is different because of its low contribution to tax revenues, and it is sometimes argued that it is punching below its waist. But in order to make sure that the agricultural sector is transformed so that it can have significant economic contribution, several fiscal reforms were conducted by the government. However, these reforms highly concentrated at the primary production stage, and that is the farming stage. And in this case, there was a need of conducting a comprehensive study on agricultural tax structure, which will focus on the entire agricultural value chain. And we sampled 6 crop subsectors, which include tea, coffee, sisal, cotton, horticulture, and cashew nuts. What is the current status of the agricultural sector in Tanzania? For example, if we assess the economic performance of our sector compared to Uganda, Ghana, Kenya, and Morocco, based on the contribution of tax to GDP ratio, you can see that in Tanzania, we have only 12%, which is below an African average of 18.2%, while Uganda is 14.2, Ghana 17.6, Kenya 18.4, Morocco 22.3. But when you assess the potential that we have here in Tanzania, in the Tanzania agricultural sector, we have relatively huge potential compared to the aforementioned countries.
Dr. Riziki, sorry to interrupt you. We cannot see your screen, please.
I didn't manage to share it.
Oh, you
I'm
didn't?
just using it outside the screen, yeah.
We are very happy looking at you. So please try
I was not able to share it. Probably someone can project my presentation, please, if possible.
Yes, you can continue, because the good thing is that we are also following up, but as you continue, please just make a try to share your screen.
Okay. What are the characteristics of the agricultural sector in Tanzania? What is the current status? I'm talking of the characteristics. First, it is dominated by small farmers and small agro-processing firms, which are quite informal, with limited capacity to add value. And the sector has become the major exporter of raw crops. That is in accordance with various literature. And those people who engage in the agricultural sector just for subsistence reasons. So there is a need of commercializing it. And agro-allied industries are still at the infant stage with limited value chains. So we have an unpleasant characteristics of the agricultural sector. At the same time, we appreciate the efforts of the government to conduct several reforms, because I managed to be in a team which assessed the blueprint implementation status. More than 50% of the fees which were either reduced or eliminated were agricultural-related fees. So in this case, we appreciate, but in the case of improving business enabling environment, we should be able to continue assessing the agricultural tax structure in order to attract more investment. So in this study, we assessed the agricultural tax structure, focusing on the number of taxes and fees. So you can see in the table that we have, the next slide, in the table that we have, the next one, okay? The next one, yes. In the table that we have, you can see the average number of taxes and fees at the farming stage is 10. The average number of the taxes and fees at the processing stage is 14. And traders also pay an average of 4 taxes and fees. But you can see we have the total number of taxes and fees, which is 30, coffee 23, sisal 23, cotton 19, horticulture 34, and cashew nut 36. The total average number of fees and taxes across the agricultural value chain is 16, which are relatively huge in accordance with their opinion, which makes the sector less competitive and unable to attract more investment. How do we interpret our findings? In the next slide, we are saying that more taxes and fees are charged to the processors compared to the taxes and fees paid by farmers and traders. What is an implication? Heavy taxes and fees at the processing stage create fiscal barriers towards adding value in the agricultural sector. That's why we are saying one of the characteristics of the agricultural sector in Tanzania is that it's the major exporter of raw crops, because we have inadequate incentives to invest in the processing stage, in the agro-processing industry. There is an average of 26 taxes and fees, as I've said, in the entire agricultural value chain. In this case, there are more incentives to operate informal than formal in the agricultural sector. Therefore, there are more also incentives to trade raw crops than processed crops due to relatively huge fiscal burden at the agro-processing stage. So in our report, we have specific fiscal recommendations specific recommendations for in accordance with the in accordance with the crop subsectors, but we have general recommendations. So in this case, because of time, I will focus on the general recommendations. In the next slide, we are saying intervention number 1. We are recommending that there is a need of reducing the value-added tax in the agricultural sector from 18% to 10%. This will make our agricultural products more competitive in the market and enable, we are saying more competitive in the labor market in terms of prices. The same strategy was used by Vietnam, whereby they charge VAT, the VAT is 10%. When they wanted to raise VAT from 10% to 12%, they realized that output of 15 manufacturing sectors, out of 13 sectors will decrease. So that's why we are saying, in order to revive the agro-processing industry in the country, we need to reduce value-added tax in the agricultural sector from 18 to 10%. Also, we need to reduce income tax in the agricultural sector from 30% to 12%, 20%. What are the benefits of reducing income tax from 30% to 20%? One, we will enable the expansion of agro-processing industries, which will be organized either formal or semi-formal. In addition, we will be able to attract more agricultural investment in the high-value productive chains, in the high productive value chains. And thirdly, government revenues will increase because of higher growth of higher value chains. Intervention number 2, we need to conduct comprehensive fiscal reforms for agro-processing sector transformation. I had one of the panelists in previous sessions that say the agricultural sector is affected by a number of policies and regulations, not only policies and regulations which are in the agricultural sector by themselves, but it is affected by a number of policies and regulations. So we need to conduct a comprehensive fiscal reforms. Intervention number 4, we need to reduce the heavy fiscal burden to create incentive for agribusinesses to operate formally and focus on high-value activities. Intervention number 5, what we're saying that for easy administration on the collection of taxes and fees, we are recommending that there is a need of having electronic single payment window. Intervention number 6, we are proposing that, and because of time, I will not explain them much. We are proposing that there is a need of conducting a national cost of doing business survey in the Tanzanian agricultural sector in every 5 years in order to assess the effect of fiscal decisions which we are making on the competitiveness of our agricultural sector. Intervention number 7, we are recommending that environmental compliance monitoring in the audit fee to be reduced. Currently, cultivation activities are required to pay, conducted in the irrigation schemes, are required to pay between 500,000 to 1.5 million, and in the non-irrigation schemes is in between 250,000 to 750,000. So we are proposing that this fee should be eliminated. Also, we are proposing that OSHA inspection fees, OSHA inspection fees to be eliminated, because currently they are paying 40 for micro, 120,000 for small, 240 for medium, and 360 for large. So we are recommending that these fees to be eliminated.
Dr.
Another
Riziki,
thing which
can you finalize, Dr. Riziki? We are
okay. So we need to also to reduce medical examination fee from 110,000 Tanzanian shillings to 20,000. Also, agricultural imports, the value-added tax on all agricultural imports to be zero-rated. Finally, we are recommending that in order to attract agricultural financing, there is a need of providing incentives to the commercial banks which provide loans to the agricultural products by either reducing income tax to those commercial banks which provide agricultural which provide financing to agricultural projects from 30% to 17%, and reducing compulsory minimum reserve requirements required by the Bank of Tanzania, so that they can be able to provide the adequate financing to the agricultural projects. Thank you for listening. I submit.
Thank you so much, Dr. Riziki. Please clap for him. Actually, that was a very powerful presentation. You have given us a picture of how the agriculture tax structure is designed in Tanzania, that we are more of, the way our tax structure is promotes more people to operate informally, but also encourages more people to operate at primary stages of the value chain. But you have also given us a good number of fiscal reform proposals, which I think the PAG and other members and other organizations whom are here will take them for advocating them for the reforms. So thank you very much, Dr. Riziki. Kindly stay online, as we'll also need to bring in the answer. Now, I'd like to welcome the presenter who will be presenting. This is Chief Cash Officer for the who were around yesterday. We had from the company, and they were very delicious and very nice to how the packaging was. So, Mr. Wak, the floor is yours. We're expecting to get the presentation from you on the blockchain technology to further value addition, farm to shelf. You have strictly 10 minutes, and I will alert you when you are about to finish your 10th minute. The floor is yours, Fahad. Karibu sana.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon. Do I need to share my screen, or is the presentation going to be uploaded up there?
The IT people, can you advise? Please, Fahad, you can share your screen. Karibu.
Okay. Yeah, so good afternoon. Thank you guys for having me. My name is Fahad Awaz. I'm the Chief Cashew Officer at YYTZ Agro-Processing. We're a cashew nut processing company building an inclusive cashew nut value chain. So we work directly with smallholder farmers and women's groups to help them add value to their own cashews. We then pay them higher prices, and we take that product to our factory in Zanzibar, where we do all the finishing, drying, grading, roasting, flavoring, and then finally packaging a consumer product that we supply to supermarkets. We're able to pay farmers 60% more by participating in the value addition. And we supply to mainly Tanzania, Kenya, Zambia, UK, and Canada. I'm going to talk a little bit about our traceability system that we built into our product. I'm going to talk about the point of differentiation, and then also how that allows us to add more value and create more value here at Origin in Tanzania. So Tanzania, just a background, Tanzania is the 4th largest producer of cashews in the world. It's a very high quality origin. Unfortunately, 90% of what is produced is exported raw in the shell to India and Vietnam. So we're losing out on a lot of that value. There's also a lack of traceability, because when these cashews end up in Vietnam, they're re-exported and they end up becoming a product of Vietnam or a product of India. So the consumer insight into the origin is basically non-existent. It becomes very opaque. Consumers aren't able to identify that Tanzania is a large producer or a quality producer. Even though 60% of the world's cashews today are grown in Africa, many consumers have no idea. So traceability is becoming more and more important as a point of differentiation and value addition. This lack of traceability leads to farmers are offered low prices because we supply unprocessed cashews. It locks the country out of value creation. And then also farmers aren't incentivized to focus on quality. They end up focusing only on yields. For the consumer, there are often multiple sources of origin inside one packet. There's little or no traceability or awareness of where the cashews are actually grown or where they come from. And the lack of processing leads to a huge burden on the environment, with millions of tons of cashews being transported around the world and an unnecessary amount of CO2 carbon footprint being emitted as a result. It takes 5 kilos of raw cashews to produce 1 kilo of processed cashews. And what is the opportunity with traceability? Well, EU consumers are saying that they rank traceability, trust, fair farmer pay amongst key drivers of purchase in all categories. So this is an opportunity not just in the cashew nut value chain, but in a lot of value chains across the agricultural sector, especially when we talk about horticulture and other traditional export value chains. Our blockchain traceability solution was really something that we tried to utilize a digital system, a technology to really show the entire process of how cashews are produced, and to start with the farmer and end up in the hands of the consumer, giving them insight into how the product was produced and where it comes from. So our goal was, one, we wanted to provide a method for proving authenticity of traceability of the cashew nuts. We wanted to be able to register a farmer or a location, and we wanted to be able to register activities along the supply chain. So batches of cashews, as they're processed, you can see exactly when that happened. And we wanted to make the authenticity and origin and all of these activities accessible to the end consumer. Blockchain technology offered a solution in a sense that it's a validated system. It is a decentralized system that allows different processes to be saved as a unit along a chain. The characteristics of this system are also very high performing. So all the transactions are able to be processed in less than 5 seconds. And it's a scalable system that can handle thousands of transactions per minute. It helps to create a trustworthy story as well in the eyes of the consumer, where every transaction is linked to a user and every step of the supply chain can temporarily be owned by a chain player. So if you have a farmer, producer, and then you have a processor, aggregator, and you finally have an importer, and then ultimately the retailer, all of those actors along the supply chain can own that product at that period of time. So each process, each step, ownership can be transferred to the next chain player. With cashews, we were actually able to implement a system that we're the first company in the world to produce a fully traceable pack of cashews. And we're able to do this because, one, we are based at origin and we know every farmer that we deal with. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how it all works. So each farmer is given a traceability card, which looks like this on the screen. It has a QR code on the back, which we scan when we buy from that farmer. We have tags on each bag of product. So as it moves to our factory, we can scan that bag as the source. And ultimately, when it ends up in the consumer package, which I think all of you were able to receive, you can scan the QR code on the pack to see exactly which farmer, which group that pack of cashews came from. So we're working at a group level now. We work with these women's processing groups, and we're now to further move down to individual farmer level. But ultimately, each QR code that you find is unique. So everything is a unique ID, which is attached directly to this individual product. So it is a little bit more time consuming and a little bit more intensive, but for us to be able to differentiate and to provide a consumer with insight into where it came from, the photo of the farmer, a little bit of the story and background into how those cashews are produced, was really what we built our value proposition on. So our brand is called More Than Cashew, and more than anything, we focused on the inclusive value chain, so making sure that it's an ethical supply chain, paying farmers fairly, better quality cashew. Tanzania is known to have the best cashews in the world, but unfortunately consumers don't identify with that. So by branding the origin, and then also the traceability. So the traceability becomes the key part of our value proposition. I think now when I talk about what the opportunity is, and maybe concluding kind of remarks and takeaways, is that connecting consumers to farmers is a huge opportunity and a point of differentiation that can be used across the agricultural sector in different products. It helps to create more value at origin. It helps to differentiate Tanzania as a high quality origin. Yesterday, when we were listening to presentations around coffee, around tea, around horticulture, we learned that tea is being taken into Kenya and then re-exported, or avocados are being taken and packed in Kenya and then re-exported. So we lose out on, one, consumers identifying Tanzania as an origin, but then also the value that comes with that. We need to brand Tanzania in the global marketplace and allow consumers to explore the origin as they become more and more interested into how their food is produced and how products are actually grown. The opportunity is there for us to use existing infrastructure to implement these digital traceability solutions. So at AMCOs or cooperative levels, adding tags or digital signatures to products as they move through a supply chain. And now more and more discerning and retailers are focusing on traceability. So it's a great opportunity for us as a country to see how we can tap into this and really differentiate ourselves in the market. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Fahad. Thank you first for keeping time. Actually, we've used almost 9 minutes, but also thank you for the nice presentation with an innovative technology, especially on traceability, I think, which we have plenty of things to learn out of that. So thank you, Fahad. Kindly stay online as we might reach back to you during the question and answer session. Thank you so much. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to welcome the third presenter who will be presenting on unlocking small-scale irrigation through innovative finances. And the presenter is Edgar Bubera, and Edgar is the consultant at Dalberg. We have heard a number of innovative finances yesterday from during one of the session, and this one is specifically now on the irrigation financing. And mind you that irrigation is one of the very important thing, and requires a lot of mechanization, technologies, which sometimes farmers fail to afford those kind of technologies. So let's hear what Bubera is about to tell. Bubera, are you there?
Yeah, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly, Bubera. You have the floor now. You have 10 minutes to present, to do your presentation. Karibu sana.
Asante, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Edgar Bubera, and I work for Dalberg Advisors, and I'll be presenting on unlocking small-scale irrigation through innovative finance. So the irrigation potential is really quite huge in the country, both in terms of how much can be boosted to the GDP through the irrigation utilization, but also in terms of how much financing that can be available to the market. So the numbers show us that approximately 3 trillion can actually be boosted into the GDP by utilizing some of these technologies, but also in terms of 2 trillion Tanzanian shillings can actually be available into the market by financing for some of these irrigation technologies. And beyond the numbers, we're also seeing that these technologies can actually boost productivity, seasonality, and also market access challenges. However, the status quo is still not there yet. So less than 2% of suitable land is not irrigated. And therefore, the yield is quite low. And also we are seeing that some variables such as prices and volumes of the produce is quite always fluctuating. But again, irrigation technologies can actually solve for this. So once we increase the amount of land that is actually irrigated, we believe that the yields per acre will actually increase because of the year-on production and also efficient use of water, but also the variables that are usually quite fluctuating in every season. So for example, prices and also the produce that comes from these farms can actually be stabilized, and therefore the incomes for smallholder farmers will actually increase. And we're seeing that there are also different types of irrigation technologies. However, our research concludes that or suggests that drip irrigation is far more better than most of these irrigation technologies available. And some of the features that can be highlighted, so for example, one of them could be the efficient usage of water. Also, input utilization is also quite efficient with drip irrigation. We're also seeing things like guaranteed yield increase and support of crop growth in terms of uniformity of growth of these crops. And then other features, in terms of the lifespan of drip irrigation technologies, but also the easiness of trying to control it while using this type of irrigation. Now, drip irrigation can actually be powered by either solar or diesel or other type of fuels. And there are perceptions that diesel-powered type of irrigation is quite more cheaper than the solar-powered irrigation. This is because of the upfront costs. However, our analysis, as you can see in the graph that is displayed right now, it shows that in a long term, for let's say, at least even in the first year, moving on to the second year, solar-powered irrigation is more suitable in terms of both the long-term financial return, but also sustainability perspectives as we're trying to push for climate-smart type of agriculture. So as you can see in this graph here, such that the year-one costs are quite higher for solar, but again, the trend tries to reverse as you move forward to year 2 and moving forward, where we're seeing that because of the fuel costs by using diesel and the need to frequently replace the pump, diesel powered type of irrigation becomes more expensive as compared to solar. And we also have a number of different players in the market who actually either provide drip irrigation technology itself, or they provide the solar pump, or they provide both of them. So the drip irrigation technology, as well as the solar power. So the likes of Pelton and ETC Agro, who provides the drip irrigation technology, or the likes of Mobisol and Future Pump, who provide the solar pump specifically, and Sunculture, who can provide both of them. So this is just to show that some of these technologies are actually available in the market, and the number is actually growing. And we also saw that while drip irrigation can actually be used for different types of crops and value chains, we see that it's quite more suited for horticulture, and maybe as people are trying to adopt, they can start with horticulture. And this is mainly for a number of reasons, and I'm going to highlight a couple of them. So one of them is due to the fact that smallholder farmers can actually fetch higher incomes when it comes to farming within horticulture, but also the potential for irrigation to solve for different variables like the price hikes, the volume shortage, and the perishability trends that are more seen within horticulture. And so we concluded that this could be a stepping stone towards getting to more smallholder farmers to adopt this type of irrigation for other more different types of value chains. And then we also try to analyze the impact of this type of irrigation across different types of value chain to see how smallholder farmers can actually benefit from this type of irrigation. And we conducted this analysis in 2 ways. So one, looking at this type of irrigation with normal inputs, as well as this type of irrigation with improved inputs. And across both of them, we're seeing that there is an improvement in terms of the average yields, but also in terms of the annual net income. So with normal inputs, the yield can increase up to 3 times. And with and also the annual net income can also increase up to 2 times. Once you use the solar power drip irrigation with improved input, we also saw that the impact is much more higher, whereby your average yield per acre can increase up to 5 times, and your annual net income can increase up to more than 2 times. And as we can see on the bottom part of this slide right now, it shows how the yields and different, like the return on investment and your net income can increase across different types of value chains or the select horticultural products. And this is also the same for different types of value chains. But again, we must also acknowledge the fact that solar-powered type of solar-powered drip irrigation is quite cost prohibitive. And so because of the limitations in accessing finance, so most smallholders cannot really get the chance to adopt this type of irrigation. This is because of the high upfront costs and the fact that there is a mismatch between the needs and the timelines of smallholders. The repayment schedules are mostly not aligned with the crop calendar, and while banks can offer short to medium-term loans, some of these financing these equipments can actually require long-term loans. And so the solution can actually be sort of a financing facility that can comprise of different players, such as financial institutions, equipment vendors, funder groups, and farmers, also the payee providers and different type of farmers, and then coming together to build a product or different type of products that actually are fit for this type of market, whereby the repayment conditions are actually aligned to the farmer income streams. And therefore, to conclude, we are looking at these two types of financing solution. So this first one is the asset financing facility, whereby I'm going to lay out briefly just the structure of how this operates, whereby a financial institution pays the vendor for the equipment cost, and then once and then the vendor delivers the equipment to the smallholder farmers, who then, after harvesting and trading, they pay back the loan to the financial institution. And after the full payment, ownership is fully transferred onto the farmers. And in any event of either a loss or like loan default, the vendor can buy back the equipment at a predetermined value for that specific depreciation cycle. And the advantage of this type of asset financing facility is that equipment, the drip irrigation equipment itself, acts as a form of a collateral. So that's how the risk is mitigated in this type of model. And then the other type of model is the pay-as-you-grow facility. This is not a very new technology, as we know pay-as-you-go technologies are quite more vibrant in the East African market. And this type of technology uses sort of the rent-to-own model and mobile money platforms to provide access to different types of energies. We're seeing the likes of M-Copper in Kenya, whereby electricity is provided in this way, or like the payee smart meter technology, where liquid petroleum gas is also provided in this type of a model. And so we are seeing that this technology can actually be appropriated for solar-powered type of irrigation pumps in terms of payment through mobile platforms and utilizing smart technology, and whereby smallholder farmers pay small installments for this facility over 12 to 36 months, paying only for what they consume at that particular time. And we do believe that with the adoption of these types of technologies, we can address the issue of access to finance for irrigation for smallholder farmers. Thank you very much, and back to you, moderator.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Edgar. Please round of clap to Edgar. Thank you, Edgar. That was a very informative presentation. Thank you for actually what we've got from your presentation is that drip irrigation was one of the irrigation technologies which are proven to be effective, but also more convenient to the small-scale farmers because of its prices. But we also thank you because you have also shared with us the financing option, the asset financing facility, but also pay-as-you-grow facility. So thank you for the presentation. I think the panelists and the audience will have much to contribute on that, because I think we have people with different experience in agriculture financing. So thank you very much. And we might get back to you later during the question and answer session. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I've informed you earlier, we have 5 panelists who will also chip in to contribute from the presentation, but also to share their experience in different areas. And I would like to call them, those who are in here with us, to come here and take their seat. Agro is online. Dr. is online. Richard, please just come ahead and take your seat. And then also Nico Gohai, can you please your Madame Riveldi Kataru, please come and take your seat. While they are coming to take their seat and familiarizing themselves, so climatizing with the stage, I'd like to take this opportunity to now call upon our participants or the panelists who are participating virtually, so that contributing, giving up their opinions while we are waiting for the ones whom we have in the house. So I'd like to start with Anita Kayomo, and this research and budget specialist from ANSAF, and she's joined from Dar es Salaam. And Anita, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, thank you very much.
I hope I can hear you.
Yes, we are clear, and thanks for joining us. What we'd like to hear, we know that ANSAF has and I'm going to yesterday, before, only 25% of the land is irrigated, meaning that we have a very long way to go. So we'd like to hear from your experience dealing with the small-scale farmers, but your experience in irrigation. What are the key policy recommendations you have if we are to transform, or if you are to increase that percentage which I've mentioned, maybe moving center to upward? So please, if you can share with us what we've learned and what are your key policy recommendations for us to take up, so that we can move ahead and transform our agriculture sector in the country. Annette, you have 5 minutes. I know you have a lot to share, but please summarize them in 5 minutes. Karibu sana.
Thanks, Kevin, and everyone. My name is Annette, as I've been introduced. So I will highlight 3 points before I go to the policy recommendations. We remember that in 2015, government IC targeted to increase area under irrigation by 117%, but we were able to achieve this target by only 50%. And World Bank, they did highlighted that in order for us to achieve that target, we were to allocate about 6.8 trillion, not necessarily from the government, but that was the total cost that were supposed to go into that investment. But when it comes to government allocation, it's actually very low. Just picking 1 year, 2020-21, government allocated shilling 18 billion to support irrigation, so you can imagine. And between 2021 and 2025, the target was to increase up to 1.2 million hectares. And this is about 500,000 hectares we're talking about here. But during this year budget, we have allocated 51.49 billion to support irrigation. And this is thanks to Irrigation Development Fund. So you can still see that the budget is still low, because we are talking about around, I mean, for the past target, it was about 1 trillion at least to go to in irrigation, to support irrigation, to enable us to achieve that target. So you can see that public-private partnership is highly recommended. So let me share a bit of experience from ANSAF. ANSAF, we do support community to monitor agricultural development projects at the LGA level through social accountability monitoring tool. And through these interventions between 2017 and 2020, we came to realize this, these several things. And one is, most of these irrigation projects were not feasible. And the other thing, and why was not feasible, partly is because capacity is not sufficient and so many other factors. The other thing we came to find out is that most of these projects were complete but not used. Why? Because the involvement wasn't sufficient as well. But also we found out that some were incomplete, but due to some reasons, such as late or less disbursement of the budget, that's why those projects were not complete. And the other thing is that there were reallocation of funds for the approved budget to support irrigation activities. So all of this needs to be taken into account. What do I recommend if we have to increase areas under irrigation? First and foremost is to identify and prioritize the highest potential area for irrigation. Why am I saying this? Is because World Bank in 2016, they say that even though the area under irrigation, which is potential, is about 29.4 million, I see the figure differ a little bit from Edgar's presentation, but either way, 8% of that, which is equivalent to 2.3 million hectares, is the highly potential area for irrigation. And 16% is medium and 76% is low potential. So there is a high need to identify this area and prioritize accordingly because we have scarce resource. The second thing is irrigation development efforts should be linked with capacity, skills, and awareness creation. This will enhance inclusiveness, but also ensure a little bit sustainability of these projects. But the second recommendation is that 1.2 million hectare target should be in sync with resource allocation. You saw I highlighted the budget that we're being allocating, and we have allocated this year. It is too small, so we should make sure that those targets in sync with resource allocation. But also disbursement has been a challenge. Through our different assessment, we have found out that a very low amount has been disbursed in most of the irrigation projects. Something else is that there should be effective involvement of communities in monitoring. You have seen that we are using this social, SAM tool, and through SAM tool, we have been able to identify different challenges and enhance irrigation projects, implementation of the irrigation projects. The other point is we should support operationalization of National Environmental Trust Fund in order to minimize the impact of climate change. Yes, we are enhancing areas under irrigation, but also we have to minimize climate change. So the last point is that I would recommend we promote efficient and cost-effective technologies. And here this can be done through a number of things. One, we could subsidize those irrigation equipments because we know most of them are imported, but then we could work on tax reforms and regulatory reforms. On tax reforms here, we can provide incentives because I've seen that there are a number of incentives that we are able to work out some magic on irrigation subsector. But also we should create more awareness of the benefits. You can find that a drip irrigation versus flood irrigation, there is a huge difference in cost effectiveness. With drip irrigation, you can save a lot of water because you can know how much water is going into land, but with flood irrigation, it's uncalculated amount of water and it's effective in the end. And last but not least is enhancement of agriculture financing to support purchase of these equipments. We have seen recently that BOT monetary policy measure. So measures like that, we should make sure that they benefit a smallholder producer. So in order for smallholder producer to benefit, that walked me to my last point, that is we should emphasize on smallholder producers to work in groups, because if they work in groups, then they will be able to tap these opportunities that they wouldn't if they were working individually. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Anit, for your contribution. I think we have got from you that financing the irrigation infrastructure is very important. We should prioritize on the potential areas, and then after allocating the budget, timely disbursement should be there, but also we should promote efficient and cost-effective technologies. Thank you very much. And now I'm about to reach out to the second panelist, who is also online, Dr. Liston Njoroge. Dr. Njoroge, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. Njoroge. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Asante, Dr. Njoroge. Actually, my question to you will be on the storage facilities. Having been in this conference from Tuesday, one of the issues which has been risen up by many participants is issues on storage facilities, because this actually has something to do with post-harvest management, especially for crops which are more perishable. As we know, we have post-harvest losses are still on very high side, but also for other crops, we need storage facilities so that farmers could take advantage of seasonality and time and the market prices in the market. So we would like to understand from AGRA, what initiatives do you have in addressing this area, but also what key policy recommendations do you have as to a country so that we can transform in this area. You have 5 minutes. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to make a contribution in this area. I'll first of all make a small reflection on what Agro has been doing around supporting work on storage facilities in areas where Agro has had projects in Kigoma, in Kagera, in Sumbawanga and Katavi. We've worked a lot with the local partners, government, the private sector to try and rehabilitate the storage facilities, the warehouses, to bring them up to standard of being usable to store commodities. And why do we think that is important? Again, that it's obvious. One is because of the post-harvest losses that you have alluded to. Statistics that we have indicate that we have losses of between 25 and 35%, depending on which crop one is talking about. And beside the post-harvest losses themselves, there are also the health issues, the aflatoxin issues. And all these mitigating investment is around the storage is the beings harvested by farmers. But again, beyond just storage for reducing service losses and storage for mitigating against aflatoxin and other issues, there's also a concept of storing these commodities as the market improves and as you transit from surplus production to when the prices are high. So I think this is a very important area, but one where there has been inadequate investment. So what do I think could be done to strengthen this area? Of course, previously, development of storage facilities has been largely a public affair, public investment, a public good. But what I see as important is to have public-private partnership towards creating and developing more storage facilities. So that is not just a matter of the public good, but is also private sector joining in and helping to create to increase storage facilities. So in terms of policy recommendations, first of all, there have to be incentives. The private sector have to be incentivized to make investments around storage facilities. And then we have to ask what are the best incentives the private sector needs. And we create those incentives for private sector to provide